Welcome back to the Brandon K Show. This is a real show, and we're in the middle of March. Brandon K videos all day, every day in March. And we're in the middle of Dealing With Week. This week, we hit topics dealing with anxiety, dealing with alcoholism, dealing with depression, dealing with grief. And now we're going to talk about dealing with identity and the inner world. I'm here with my guest, Mr. Franklin.
Hi, how's it going?
Franklin, would you like some applause?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, he deserves applause.
It doesn't help like you hear me. Okay.
There you go.
How's it going?
It's good. Franklin and I met. I work at a bar as a security guard, and Franklin was outside telling me his whole story in life. You know, as many people at the bar do, and about how almost that you might have said to begin with, like, I thought I had these multiple personalities, but now I've come to realize that they're just these parts of my psyche. And before I let you speak on that, um I myself am diagnosed schizoaffective, and like there's a lot of misinformation about what is schizophrenia, what is schizoaffective. So schizophrenia is just like scattered thoughts. It doesn't mean that you're two different people, five different people, 10 different people, but it does mean that you could potentially hear things or see things that aren't there. And same with like bipolar. Sometimes people think that that's different identity disorder, multiple personalities. So for me, it's important. I mean, it's important to know the difference between what these things are. So I've learned more about them, having been diagnosed that myself, as well as realizing that that's just a word that we put on something. Really, we're just trying to put names on our inner world. And I know that you yourself probably don't even have a diagnosis.
Oh, yeah, no, that's not true. When I was, excuse me, when I was a teenager, I was diagnosed borderline personality disorder.
Mhm.
My grandmother had all the books about celebrity bipolar children and stuff, trying to get whatever tips and tricks she could scrounge up so I wouldn't, off myself, as
Mhm.
apparently was a common thing. But I never really leaned to that diagnosis. I almost feel like I didn't entirely know at the time. And so I sort of developed my own little stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
You know.
And so we talk like what I we talk a lot at the bar. You tell me all about like you're writing this whole novel about your
Yeah.
experience, starting with these different parts of your psyche, starting with the inner child. But yeah, go ahead and start telling the story to
Okay.
because you'll
Okay.
say it better than I do.
All right. All right. Well, not necessarily the story, but where it came from. I You gotta look at my childhood. I didn't have a father growing up. Didn't have any male fatherly figures to look to who I couldn't expect to stay around. My mother was young when she had me, so she was still living her younger years, and I was raised by my grandparents. And I was my grandmother's favorite out of, in the entire world, so I was coddled and I was doted upon. And she gave me the time during these adolescent years to just lock myself up in a room and figure myself out. And not having this, paternal figure that was realistic for me to emulate, or not having any sort of religion that gave you that structure that so many children need. I created my own story, and I've sort of kind of let it sort of guide me through life. And at the time, because I think mental illness in general, it's relatively new in the way that it's been perceived as something that's legitimate, that
Hmm.
that warrants examination and understanding.
Yeah.
And so with that, a lot of science fiction type ideas came out. And a popular one was always split personalities.
Right.
And I think my inner child just grabbed onto that idea, and I started making personalities. Which I'm sure everyone does to some degree. I would hope, but I actually have a very defined sort of structure for that.
Well, I know that, for the inner world and, for myself, and also having times of loneliness in my childhood, and either it's the TV or the comic books, or eventually I started to, write my own stories
Mhm.
and write my own poetry and everything else. It's like that's like at times my fantasy world is, I can go and start daydreaming in my books and everything, and like that can be like an escape. But I know when you talk about it, it's like it exists alongside your own.
Well, that okay, and when I do say stuff like that, it's
Mhm,
because in that moment, that's how it feels.
mhm,
But looking back, hindsight 2020,
mhm,
yeah, I was doing the same thing everyone else was doing. I was running away into my own mind, into my own
mhm,
fears and insecurities. I was allowing my anger and frustration from dealing with life and the real world to fuel what I think would be a better story.
mhm.
And I was populating it with these different masks I created, to help sort of help kind of paint the picture as to why I see things the way I see things.
And like I said, you had described it to me that like there were different parts of your psyche, of yourself. There's the id, the ego, the superego, the animus, the inner child. I know the animus is separate from yourself. Go ahead and tell us what the animus is first.
Okay, well, I don't 100% subscribe to all these things because I'm not a professional. What I know about Carl Jung is about the same thing everyone else knows about Carl Jung as of
Mhm.
the last 3 months
Yeah,
with all the shadow work apps that are popping up everywhere.
yeah.
Uh, but oh, I'm sorry. What was the question?
Oh, about the animus.
Oh, my animus. Oh, my animus is a very it's a very specific image. The animus would be my idea of woman.
Okay, so that's
Well,
separate from the self.
yeah, I mean, I think the idea that we even possess this idea of an opposing of a partner
Hmm.
tells us that we're meant to desire that and to want that, and that's sort of what my damsel, as I call her,
Hmm.
sort of became to be. Like she was something I was always trying to kind of be equal to.
Right, and I think everyone's got to have like a vision of the ideal partner in their head. So I think
Yeah,
that's why.
the dream girl.
Yeah,
That's
somebody came up with, probably Carl Jung or somebody in psychology came up with the animus, which is what we're projecting onto somebody and what we're hoping we find in a partner.
yeah, yeah, and there's specific stages that you'll look into it based on historical names. Like I think the first step is Eve,
Mm,
and that stage of the animus represents the nurturer and all that,
mm,
and they mature and evolve as you go on.
hmm.
I mean, but my whole system doesn't really require that to function.
Right. So that one was just on this list, but
Yeah.
in general, our self could be divided into like the id, the ego, the animus, and the inner child. And
And
in your past, these things could come out where you almost thought you were different people.
yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, my upbringing, there was a lot of fear of abandonment and fear of being misunderstood. Going hand in hand with having a speech problem as a kid.
Mhm.
And even though a lot of people tell me that it's maybe indistinguishable now,
Mm,
it's always going to be an issue in my head because it was an issue for so much of my life.
mhm.
So that's still, if you're speaking here now, I'm scared shitless.
I don't even know what
Yeah.
that is, so I couldn't tell you that I've noticed it at all.
Oh well, it doesn't mean anything to me, but thank you.
Yeah, yeah, still.
But so I was always looked at as being weird and whatnot, and just to that, I was you know just ring that bell. I was smarter,
Mhm.
uh, and and so I saw things. I felt like I was always stuck between generations. I saw things as what was coming after, but I also saw the same way as what came before, and I could see what was wrong and what was right.
When
You
you
know.
were like even in your 20s or 30s, like, and you would when you would know that the inner child, or would you ever revert back to like an inner child, like act like a
Well,
child?
okay, well, in my later teens, when I started this whole idea that, or maybe these all separate personalities, the childlike one, and then my aspirations and all that. And by the time I was in my 20s and 30s, I was already cycling through all of these.
Hmm.
I would
Daily.
I would jump whenever the situation called for one person. You do this one. I was like, I'll do this one.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I was talking to myself and convince myself to behave like this because I'm this person now.
Hmm.
But it wasn't as simplistic as I'm saying it now. In my head, it was very involved. I like to use the idea of a fleas inside a jar.
Okay.
And you put fleas in that jar, they'll understand what their boundaries are. You remove the jar, they won't leave that same confined space
Okay.
because they don't see beyond it.
All right.
That's sort of like how it felt at the time, as I was so consumed by this, I couldn't see past it.
I hear what you're saying. You
Yeah.
think that's a real thing that the fleas wouldn't leave the jar?
I
So
mean, I've seen the TikToks and stuff, but I
oh
mean,
yeah.
just the metaphor of it
I
all.
talked about that on the show recently about an elephant. He's a baby elephant. He
Mhm.
grows up on a post, and then once the post is removed, he gets big, and he still stays in that same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because you just learn behavior.
I never heard of the fleas in the jar
Oh,
movie.
oh, you can Google it or something. I mean, it's out there. I don't know if it's real, but I think it is.
That's crazy.
Hey, can I ask how many people at that point in your life did you have in your head that you were saying that
Okay, well,
were fulfilling these different roles?
let's go through the order. The first one, it's not necessarily that I gave them names at the time.
Okay.
It was definitely like a feeling I had.
However you want to represent them.
It began as my inner child who purposely tanked high school because he didn't want to grow up. He created an imaginary friend who eventually came to represent my persona, the face I would show the world. My inner child just wanted to stay in here all day.
The persona would look like just like like trying to be as normal as possible.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of stoicism. There was a lot of, undauntedness. I don't know the word, man.
Almost like not, yeah, representing your authentic self, just like
Yeah,
putting
just a
like a,
shield.
yeah, like a,
He was my inner child's hero. He needed to be big and strong and just face the world so that he could be in here playing. You know. Uh
and you were going down the list, so that was
oh
the
yeah,
inner child.
and then once I kind of
persona.
began to look at the real me, who I thought should be the real me, that's when myself, I became to realize that I was curious by nature. I like to know things, not so I can manipulate or control it. It's just I like to know things. If it's
Mhm,
true, I want to know what's true, and I'll act accordingly.
mhm.
But most people don't give you the truth, so I was always questioning things.
And
Why?
that was which part?
That's myself.
That's your
That's who I
the self,
that's who I
your
feel.
the deepest part of your core is a curious.
Yeah, everything else comes from that.
Yeah.
Uh,
So that would be within all of them. They would all be curious.
yeah, but then the do with living, you have to grow up and you have to make something of yourself in some way. You have to progress through life, or may as well just give it up. And I didn't want to do that. The story sort of always compelled me. Like, if you have questions, keep following the story and you'll get your answers. Don't quit yet. Just keep going, keep going.
Mhm,
So it was a motivating drive to live another day.
mhm.
And my ego kind of took over a little bit, he became this sort of a madman, because in some degree we all act crazy compared to the other, because we never really know what's going on through the other person's mind and whatnot. And quite often I felt like I was a villain in a lot of people's stories,
Mhm.
even though I wasn't trying to be. I'm just
Right.
trying to make my own way too, and I don't want to jostle the situation, but
Yeah.
I want my fair share. What's up?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I know I dealt with like alcoholism and drugs. Like, what was your madman?
Oh, just you didn't think the way other people thought.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very distinct idea of death and what it means. A very, very unorthodox, though not necessarily disregarded, ideas of what God might be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh, but growing up in the '90s, the revival of the born again Christians,
Would you
which
fight
my
with?
extended family became, it sort of kind of fueled an opposing point of view.
Would you fight with people, or was this mostly going on
Oh, it's just in my head. It
in
was
your?
just
Yeah. Just like
eternal mental conflict with
yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have bouts of anger, and this is what perhaps the borderline stuff seeped in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about it other than keywords I've heard, but I would imagine, I think I've probably split a few times in my life,
Mm-hmm.
where I was just lose control because I was just so frustrated and angry about whatever moment I was in.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I didn't acknowledge that's what it was at the time because I had no idea.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
it might not even be that. I think it is, but it might not even be that.
Yeah. I've heard even people who get diagnosed different identity disorder. They just have that really extreme madman, and then they have their kind of normal personality.
Well, and that's what's interesting is I always contributed those outbursts to the madman.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I became closer to where I am today, so, the last year and a half, when I started to flesh out my damsel a little bit more, and when I
The
actually
animus.
my animus,
Yeah.
and when I actually brought a name to my id, to my fears. That's the name
The id
I'm
is
choosing now.
Franklin.
That's Franklin.
The id is Franklin.
So
Your self is Joe.
yeah, yeah, but it helps. Even though I know everything I believed about myself for most of my adult life isn't necessarily true now, it's still easier for me to segment all these ideas in that way.
And then your inner child is Seth.
Yeah, he's Seth, and my persona is
Could,
Max.
oh, personas
Yeah,
Max?
Max.
What about superego? I've always been confused about what the superego
I
even
think I
is.
think the ego is the self, and the super ego is, I guess, what I refer to as ego. It's
Oh,
it's it's your bravado. It's the thing that thinks you're flawless and invincible
yeah.
for whatever reason you choose.
And then on top of, coming up with all these names probably previously, like now you're trying to put this all into like a big book and series.
Well, it was always a continuing story that these personalities I was creating kind of fit in because it justified the personality. It
Mhm.
justified my place in the narrative. Uh, whereas in the real world, this is what it is. Whatever reason it is for what it is, it's how it is. My world has very clear rules, and there's a connection between everything. There's fate. It's real in my world, and so I needed to justify these characters existing in it, and I adopted that as me.
And Franklin is the one who tells the story.
Franklin ultimately is the one who becomes the narrator of the entire story, and I think that might be going back to my grandparents always wanting me to be a writer, and I never wanted to be a writer.
Oh,
I
really?
have a story in my head, but I don't want to write about it. I don't want to tell
Yeah.
anyone about it. Keep it to myself. I
Right.
wanted to hide it away.
Were they writers?
No,
Okay.
no, they just saw my potential. They saw the creativity and the insight
Mhm.
that my particular little situation brought me.
Yeah.
That's why I was able to create the story the way I have.
When you came in today, and we are prepping for the show, I asked you, what name would you like to put on the screen?
Yeah.
And you said Franklin. And I'm wondering if you had been in a different mood, let's say you weren't nervous, you weren't scared coming in, would you have given me a
Oh,
different name?
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
No, my video game handles 10-6. It's been
Okay.
that way for 20 years.
Let's see the tattoo.
I'd rather not.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, no.
It's a cool tattoo though.
People comment on it.
Yeah.
But the idea of me introducing myself as Franklin is I kind of want to keep that because I think that's who I need to be right now
Okay.
in order to achieve what I want to achieve in the future.
I see.
As
You know?
well as the one who tells the story is Franklin. So if you're here
Yeah,
telling your story, then you're Franklin, right?
yeah. I guess that's what I'm trying to convince myself.
Mhm.
Not in a delusionary way, just in a confidence building sort of way.
Even at the bar, like my boss was like, "Hey, what's your name?" And you were like, "Oh, it's Franklin, but it's also Joe."
Yeah, yeah. It's not Franklin's the newest name. He's been there just as long as anyone else. Obviously, fears and insecurities. I didn't choose to name him until last couple of years when I actually seriously tried to produce this story of mine.
And oh, you
I was gonna ask, have you ever gone into a situation being Franklin, and then I guess transition to a point where you're more comfortable, more confident in that situation, and come out being Joe or someone else? Or is it sort of just carry through that whole situation?
Well, it's different because when I first started to sort of embrace the idea of Franklin,
Mhm.
it was still quarantine sort of pandemic mode. So I didn't have a lot of interactions. I didn't have a lot of tests to put him through as just him.
Okay.
And even when I started going out, meeting you at the bar and whatnot,
Mhm.
I was already became aware that I wasn't these multiple people.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't feel the need I had to hide behind anyone. I was just me. Yeah, even introducing as Franklin, it kind of felt like it wasn't a conscious choice. It was just some part of me saying, "Go down this path because this is going to get you what you want."
Got it.
I think, you know, part of the idea of the story I developed is there is no coincidence,
Mhm.
or should I say, everything can be a coincidence, and the reason why it exists is specifically so that you notice it's a coincidence.
Yeah, where did you come up with this concept? Like,
Because it's just how I see things. The story and life have been so sort of influential on one another. When I was younger and began this narrative in my head, it was just a bunch of pictures scattered, across the board.
mhm,
And I could see the picture. I could kind of make out details of it, but I couldn't necessarily see where it fit in relation to everything else.
yeah.
As time passes and I experience more and more and I interact with more and more people, some of those images become clearer and I see how they could shift and belong. Oh, here's the linearness of it all.
Do you see a lot of coincidences out throughout your life? Is that part of it?
But I think I'm looking for it though. That's the
Mhm.
thing. I mean, that's part of it too. Is if you're looking for it, you're trying to read the story.
Did you ever have like a dream or like one of these visions that was like felt like it was gonna be very significant, and then you went out and found it in the real world?
No, no. Usually, it's the other way around. That I will experience. I will be stuck in a moment in trying to flesh out the narrative in a continuous thing. I would find myself stuck somewhere where I couldn't understand how to explain this thing,
Mhm.
only to find out that in my actual life, oh, there's the perfect explanation right here. Like I'm in the middle of it, and
Yeah.
now it's feeding this, which is funny because I had this idea years ago,
Mhm.
but this is working now. It feels again. Maybe everyone does this. I don't know. I'm
Well,
just looking at it from a different point of view.
I can relate I can relate it in this way, which is like I spent a lot of years trying to come up with beginning and middle and ends of stories, of fictional stories.
Mhm.
And it's like until I lived my life, I couldn't fill in the
Yeah,
blanks
yeah, yeah,
because like I hadn't lived, the things that I
yeah,
wanted to write.
yeah, yeah.
Is that kind of
Well. I mean, I never really had the problem with the beginning, middle, and ends. It was always the filler.
mm,
How do I get from point A to point B?
right?
I've
There's
always
that too.
seen the
That is the
points.
tricky part too.
I've always seen the points, and in some cases, I could point out to ideas that, oh, this character exists because of this person in my life, but then find out, oh, that's not true. I was looking at it from wrong. This person isn't just that; it was my idea of that, and it's actually inspired by this thing. So it's just this.
Do you, as a writer also like I look for a lot of advice because it's such a tricky thing to write. Like, do you ever look at advice for writing?
No,
You never looked at like the hero's journey or stuff like
I mean,
that?
I took the class in college.
Mm-hmm.
I took the class in college, but I didn't invest in other people's
So you know the
methods.
hero's journey.
Yeah.
Does your character in your story go through the hero's journey?
Okay, in the book I'm writing now that I'm almost done with, there are 5 parts.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's the introduction, there's the rise in action, the climax, the fall in action, and the conclusion.
Yeah.
But it's not just his story, like the hero. So,
Right, right,
there's other elements that sway and move all through
right,
it.
right. So
So I'm familiar what each role is supposed to be,
yeah,
but I don't let that define what they have to be.
I gotcha.
I just let the story tell itself.
Like he doesn't face like a big bad at the end, like a big is there an antagonist to the story?
I mean, there is, but it's not in the sense where, they're a villain. I mean, one of the things with the whole narrative is there is no villains. Or
Mm.
there are no villains.
Hmm.
Because even villainy it's all based on perspective.
Right.
True.
So I'm not gonna call any of my characters villainous. That's not fair to them. They have their right.
Do any of them like
But I'm not saying
or any of
I'm
them
not
like
saying they're good, but
as bad as Darth Vader, like where they destroy the world or try to destroy the
I
world?
don't want to get too deep because
It could be.
because I mean this story is more of an origin story kind of
Mhm.
thing,
Mhm.
but there's definitely some big ideas
Mhm.
that I have again based on what I've seen in the world
Yeah.
that a lot of people might not be comfortable with considering. But that's later. I'm not worried about that now.
What would you consider it? Like nonfiction?
I said the best definition I could find for it would be a hyper autobiographical
Okay,
fantasy,
that's what I thought. Okay.
something like that.
And have you come up with a name yet, or a name you want to
It's
disclose?
nevermore,
Nevermore.
nevermore, with a period in between never and more. It's
Oh,
one word, but the period matters.
okay.
The
And
the subtitle is "A Grim Tale of a Boy and His Death."
yeah, what is his relationship with death? Can we talk about that?
Okay, well, before the story begins, the boy dies
Okay.
for whatever reason. It doesn't matter, because when the story begins proper, he awakens. He has no memory of who he is, or where he's from, or even where he's at. This is in a vacant home. Families coincidentally on vacation.
Hmm.
Again, coincidence matters.
Right.
Uh, so as he takes a few beats to sort of figure out the basics of how to move around from point A to B and remember his alphabets and all that stuff, he meets a personification of death who has no idea why this boy is alive either.
That's
And
cool.
that's kind of what starts the whole journey.
That is cool.
And as he goes along, he realizes that he has a love of literature
Yeah.
that he remembers was ingrained in him from a child. And part of his journey is he sees patterns in the world that remind him of fairy tales that lead him from point A to point B.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm always fascinated to listen to all this stuff. And so when you're talking about the inner world and this story, then is this something when you're writing the story, it's also something you experienced as well in your mind?
Well, let's see. Well, seeing that the entire story is Franklin,
Yes.
my fears, my id. Uh, he's the storyteller, and within the scope of the story, he's his own character,
Mm-hmm.
and he refers to the place where the story is told as the every place,
Right.
but he which he adopted from Damsel's explanation.
Right. And that's the place you visit is the every place?
Realistically speaking, the every place is my depression.
Okay.
It's the place I hide to get away from the real world and to create whatever reality I want. But in my particular case, that reality is the story, and therefore the every place and the story and my depression are all the same thing.
Right. Is there any other like physical characteristics to the every place, like what it would look like?
Well,
How it would be described?
the way it's described in the story is much like its name. You choose what you want to call it based on how you perceive it. Some people might just call it their imagination. Some people might call it consciousness. Some people might call it heaven.
Mm.
Some people might call it hell. It depends on your perspective of it. The boy, the book, the story, Nevermore. That's the boy's name for the every place. He
Mhm.
calls it Nevermore.
And there was like a Edgar Allan Poe connection as well.
Yeah, just when I was a kid, I was into, I think we're all into like certain things. Like, uh, f- personally, it was Spider Man for me. I love Spider Man, and everything about my life was Spider Man. People give me Spider Man gifts, Spider Man decorations, everything. Even if I didn't want it, it happened that way.
Yeah.
Well, my boy was named by his father, an American lit professor, Thomas Edgar Allen, because his
Mhm.
father's favorite author was Edgar Allan Poe.
Right.
And that's why the boy will name his every place Nevermore. And that's why the boy will name death itself the Raven,
Ah,
because
Right. Nevermore.
that's ingrained in his persona. You know,
Yeah.
I think we all have that.
Like yeah, if this were like a comic book and you could like if this were like a comic book and you could see it, would it be like a very dark visuals, like a like dark forest, or would it be very surreal? Or if you could
Well,
think
okay,
of how it might
okay,
look.
all right. Well, definitely, it's more of a movie in my head.
Mhm.
Uh, and there's no there's no like cinematography to it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's as real as I feel it is.
It
There's no ambiance.
it works better as words almost.
I really I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm just trying to translate what's in my head into something that someone else can understand.
yeah.
And words, I was always pretty good at using words, at least on typeface as opposed to speaking them. So I know how to write a letter. You know.
mhm.
So yeah, like because you've also dealt with this multiple personality
Yeah.
situation. What's your advice to somebody who, if they're dealing with that or any other kind of
Well,
scattered thoughts like I have? Like, how do we make sense of this in your if you were to give someone
okay. All
advice or
right.
yourself advice when you were a kid?
First and foremost, seek help. Like find someone to talk to about this. Find multiple people to talk to about this.
Mm-hmm.
In my particular case, by the time this whole multiple personality thing like really started rolling along, I had already stopped therapy, and the only person I would talk to would be my grandmother early in the mornings. And I think the borderline definition of that is favorite person,
Okay.
right? She was totally my favorite person,
Okay.
and I was hers.
Oh,
So she was my confidant. Someone else into the room, I shut up. Wait till they leave. Okay, like I was saying, so it was one of those things. Uh, but that was even for part of the time. The rest of the time, it was just me in my head, in my room, just ruminating.
mhm.
It wasn't until, time wore on, I'm growing older, and I have a kid from one relationship, I have a steady job in another. I meet someone, I fall in love, and after a few years of building my life with them, I find the courage to tell her what I think about me.
Yeah.
I have multiple personalities.
Yes.
And under the circumstances for what it was, she confirmed that. She said that, like, I think you do too.
She had noticed them within
I
you.
guess
Yeah.
whatever her reasons for
Sure.
saying that,
Yeah.
she sort of supported this viewpoint I've had of myself that I shared with nobody else, not even my grandmother. And it became more real, and I got lost deeper.
Why didn't you share it with people?
Sounds like you're a freak, man. Like,
Yeah. It's like,
and that's one of that's part of Franklin's whole thing. He had a lot of, I mean, it's silly childhood trauma, but it's trauma nonetheless, and he doesn't want to revisit that.
do you wish that
But I have to.
you would have shared it earlier? Is that part because you said talk to somebody?
I suggest other people doing that.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't because then I wouldn't be me.
Right.
I'd be something else.
I also, when I started to go psychotic and have schizophrenic fantasies of who I am and
Mm.
what the world is, like I never told anybody for like a
Yeah,
decade.
yeah, yeah. Because it's 90s was when mental illness really started becoming real, but even then there was stigma.
But I have
So
to think for myself that like that that was all fear that I didn't want to be discovered. I didn't want to talk about it, but it's like bringing it into the light is how I healed too.
and that's what again, this whole I believe in a collective consciousness. It may not be a singular collective, but there's definitely branches to it.
Right.
And the idea that in the last few months, all these ideas of shadow work started popping up.
Yeah.
I bought the book. I got to one page. I was done. I couldn't do it. And the reason why is because I've already been doing my own shadow work this whole time. I just didn't realize it,
Right. Right.
you
Right.
know.
You
And
knew it all.
and now that it's a trending thing, while I'm coming to terms with my own, it seems coincidental,
Well,
right?
I can say once I started sharing my story, it was I once you say it out loud, then you're gonna hear how other people might have the same thought in their head.
Yeah,
And I've met so many people who think the same way I do.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And my partner at the time, she totally you know, bought into it, and so made me buy into it more, and I just kind of lost myself. Thing is, though, losing yourself in your fantasy world while also dealing with the struggles of of a real world quarantine.
Yeah.
We have children on our roof who need to be cared for, need to be supervised because they're not going to school. Someone needs to bring home money. Like all the conflicts of living a responsible life just made it harder and harder on her while I was digging myself deeper and deeper and deeper. So then when our relationship came to a devastating conclusion and she just had to, you know, push me away because it became too much, that's when she told me that that she doesn't believe I have multiple
Right.
personalities anymore.
Right.
Which now I, for the first time, had to question.
Yes.
Because this person who I love, my new favorite person, because my grandmother had long passed away,
Yeah.
my new favorite person is now telling me that, oh, everything you thought you knew about yourself, I disagree with now.
And then that's when you started to think you do not have multiple personalities, you have different parts of your psyche, right?
Well, it wasn't a clear jump.
Yeah.
First, it was the acknowledgement, like, no, I don't have multiple. I'm for this inner child is playing this game in my head that I got lost in. I don't have multiple personalities.
Mm.
It's me. But at the same time, it didn't feel that way because how do I be me? Who am I now? And that's when I started researching and I found the psyche labels and all that. It's like, oh, maybe I was doing this whole time.
Yeah.
Again, I don't have a degree or anything.
Yeah, this is
I'm just assuming this sounds good.
This is a tool that you've used that has been helping you.
It's helping me understand myself a little bit more.
Yeah.
And what I want out of life and whatnot, Yeah.
Yeah, and so now Now you put that into the world, and you tell a lot of people about this. Like
I have been.
you tell your story to a lot of people. You
I
told me at the bar.
I've been stupid. That's another crazy thing. You need to understand. Every year for the last 25 years, every time a new book came out, or a new movie, or a new TV show, or even a new video game, just anything new was brought to the world's attention, I was so scared. I was like, "Is that my story? Is
Mm,
that my story?
mhm.
Is that my story?" And it never was. But
Oh,
I was always like, "Someone gonna beat me to this one."
oh,
So part of me was sort of kind of pushing me on,
right.
but I just didn't want to do it.
I
You know,
gotcha.
and until I started looking at it more as a prize, and that's what happened at the quarantine with the conditions that they were. I was the stay-at-home dad, so I couldn't provide anything, financially because I had to watch the kids. I had to
Yeah.
take care of the shopping and all that stuff. So I figured, let me dig into the subconscious of mine, pull out that prize, and then we don't have to worry about things anymore. But you know, I could Indiana Jones all I want. That boulder still got me.
Right.
Pulled me under, and I got lost in it.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. Um, so much to talk about, but yeah, we talked about how at one point you had to leave your inner world to some degree to go be of service to your family and to your job.
Well, and that was the burden of the quarantine is I didn't have an opportunity to escape my world because my world was the same place where my family was and where they needed me.
Yeah.
It wasn't until my ex ended things with me and I was forced to get a proper job. And I want to point out I was always prepared to do that. It's just she wanted me to focus on the story because what's the point if I of all this trauma if I didn't do something with it?
Yeah.
And B, uh, I would have totally burned it all and been a more active participant in our relationship. But the quarantine made it hard because someone needed to be home,
Yeah.
and she was already bringing in money. There's no point. So I was trapped. But once she had her limit and I got booted out, I was forced back into the world. That's part of the process of me realizing that I didn't have multiple personalities. Is I think my second week on the job, I was at work when it all kind of clicked in my head.
Yeah.
I've been isolated for too long, you know.
Right. Right.
Like, oh, I'm starting to see things from different perspectives now. Oh, I'm
Right.
nuts, you
Well,
know.
there's always. I mean, it feels like there's always a way to
Yeah,
reframe even our depression.
but that's
Reframe.
that's the fleas in the jar, man. Yeah, just because the
Mhm.
thing's
Your
gone doesn't mean
mind.
you know it.
You even called it like an awakening. Like
I feel like waking up. It
yeah,
felt like waking up.
like you had been in the jar, and then all of a sudden it just breaks loose, and then you're able to see
Yeah.
things for in a new way.
Yeah, you're
You
like,
know.
"Oh, shit, that wall's not here anymore, guys." Like,
Hmm.
"Oh, yeah, let's
Hmm.
go.
And I've
It's scary out there."
I talk about all kinds of those different kind of tools on the show about what has helped me reframe things.
Mhm.
So I mean that's why whenever I bring someone on, I'm like, what did you do to reframe things? How did you awaken to these challenges?
Yeah, I mean, what it comes down to is just be observant with your effect on the world around you, even when you choose to do nothing.
Be observant with even if you choose to do nothing. Be observant with the way you see the world, even if you choose
Well,
to
what
do
no,
nothing.
with your effect on the world, because even just you being there
Yeah,
is changing something. Like
that is true. This has to be
it's
true. Yes,
like someone is taking notice in some way that you exist here.
I
And it's
believe.
important for you to acknowledge, not necessarily take responsibility for it, but acknowledge what is happening so that if you choose to, you can take responsibility for it later.
Well, this has been an awakening for me, which is I'm always affecting somebody. I'm either doing it in a very positive way or a very negative way, or
Yeah.
maybe in a neutral way at times. But like, if I do something that's harmful, it's going to affect the whole world in a very negative way. It affects that person and then the next person.
Yeah, in some way. I mean, that's the thing. We're all part of we're all part of the story,
Mm-hmm.
you know? I mean, and we all have and what I've learned recently by embracing the Franklin persona more so now than ever is that ultimately we really do we really can write our own story. You just need to know what the hell you're talking about,
Right.
you know?
Right. So how would that look in your life?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. my story has become this massive piece. There's multiple acts. Franklin's existence within the story is the fourth act that weaves through everything else.
You feel like
So I
you're
feel
right.
like
You feel like as far as real life, writing your story would be really writing the book, putting it out, talking about your story.
I mean, yeah. I mean that's what I have now. Like
Yeah.
I mean the story is for lack of a better phrase, my life's work.
Hmm.
Because I've ultimately put everything I can have into understanding what the hell am I trying to say.
Do you think there's, and as a curious person, do you think there's like more conclusions you will be coming to over time?
Oh, I think every day you learn something new.
Hmm.
It's just about figuring out what belongs in the narrative,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And again, with like me, I've been writing a time travel story for the last 30 years.
Oh, that was tricky. Don't do that.
Oh, no, I know. I know.
There's so many rules that don't
I've
make
been
sense.
driving myself crazy. Actually, since high school. So that's not 30 years yet. That's 20 years. But yeah, I have this idea for this certain way of time travel, and like I could get into all this same stuff about like then this character goes here and then they go there, and that applies to my life in this same kind of way. But and also it applies to this collective consciousness thing you brought up too, which was you're afraid that it'll come out in another way, like someone will steal your idea.
I
or-
was growing up because I was running away from it. And
Mhm.
so if the moment it popped up in the world, it became my sign that it would have been my sign like, "Hey, you missed opportunity. That's it."
Well, oh, but it has not popped up.
No, not in the
Yeah.
way that I see it.
Right, because then
You
it's
know?
that's kind of like the thing about creativity is
Like everything, everywhere, all at once. When
yeah,
I first heard the title, when I
yes,
first heard the title,
right.
and when I first saw some of the trailer stuff, I was just like, "Oh."
Oh yeah,
But then
yeah,
I saw the movie. It's like, "Oh, that's nothing like it. It's fine."
right. Well,
It just got close though. But
hey,
no.
same with my time travel stories. Now that the things are everybody's working on the multiverse, now all these different ideas
Well,
are coming out.
yeah,
Multiverse. That movie was
it's
all
interesting.
about the infinite dimensions.
It's interesting if you think about my story. It takes place, I guess, within the multiverse, like
Mm,
a different. Franklin being the narrator, the story takes place displaced from him.
different timelines, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
different world, different situation.
yeah.
But I don't. I'm not trying to explain that.
Hmm.
Like you see the Marvel movies do now, where they're trying to explain what the multiverse is.
Right,
I don't care if you understand. This is the story. Follow the story.
right.
Ultimately, it's a story. A parable. You
Parable
know,
of your life.
of what I've seen in life.
Is there anything in the story you're trying to teach specifically, like a lesson, or
Don't be afraid of death.
don't be afraid of death?
I'm not saying seek it out or anything like that. I'm saying that humanity, no matter what we build, no matter what systems or what technology we create, we are always going to be defined by nature's rules.
Mhm.
Survival of the fittest, king of the heel, who's most popular, all that crap.
Yeah.
We're always going to be competing with each other. The entire modern world is built on capitalism, which is the free market. But that's all based on the idea that we need more so that we could survive longer. But if you just stop caring about that and enjoying yourself and help your fellow man when they need help to the best of your ability whenever you can,
Yes,
everyone will be a lot happier, I think.
and that's a very
Just be chill, man.
that's a
Relax.
very important, deep lesson. And I see why that could be a whole theme of a book. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about death next week on the show too. I'm going to have a guy in
Wonderful.
who used to be like a mortician,
Nice.
and we're going to talk about death.
I thought about
So,
that job once. That would be cool.
was
I don't
that?
think,
Oh, you thought about that?
yeah, but I don't think it'd do with the smell.
Not to
Yeah.
mention what it'll do to your dating life.
Right?
But,
I know Dan Aykroyd scored Jamie Lee Curtis that time.
Wow.
Twice. He was a stockbroker too.
but yeah, like, and what it does to your psyche to like really be cutting people up and sewing them up and all this stuff. It's
I'm cool with the numbing effect as long as you don't let it influence your opinions on it. Like it's good to learn things. Yeah, I'm curious. Show me the insides. I want to see it.
right, right, and he has a lot of knowledge about the organs. Like he feels his organs because he knows that like he's seen him.
Yeah, yeah.
So he
Yeah.
knows like what is being affected in his own body. My
That's
friend.
cool.
My friend Michael will be on the show talking about death next week. Be prepared.
Nice. I'm watching.
Yeah, man. But even we've talked a lot about advice to somebody going through this identity crisis. We were almost called the episode like dealing with an identity crisis, but it's really about dealing with our inner world.
Yeah, and how you let it define who you want to be in the real world.
Not so much a crisis.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
feels like a crisis when you're in the midst of it.
Yeah, when
Sometimes.
you don't know.
When you don't know the
Yeah.
outcome, when you can't foresee what could happen next. I feel like I'm in it now because I don't know where Franklin's story is supposed to go.
And speaking of Franklin's story, when do you have an anticipated release date? Or
Oh, okay. First of all, I've been trying to process this stuff for 25 years. So
okay,
there's the fact that I started writing a proper rough draft a few months ago, and I'm like a chapter away from being done.
okay.
I'm so proud of myself.
yeah, man.
Uh,
Exciting.
but already I see, as the process goes, you have the rough draft, go back and fix it, make it tighter, tie up those loose ends you missed out on. I mean, I think I'm ready to hand it over to an editor probably sometime in March, though.
Would you
Okay.
put out the first book before the second book is written?
I mean, even if it's not published, I'm still open to just putting the story out there at this point.
Right.
Yeah,
Like, as long as it's out there, someone will see it.
Yeah, man.
And
yeah. You
someone,
can self-publish nowadays.
and I literally I'll throw a link somewhere. He'll follow that, read it, enjoy
Yeah,
it.
Yeah, and we'll,
Click my Google Docs.
we're here to support you on the Brandon K Show. I'll have you back on. You can talk. A
Yeah,
lot
that'd be
more
cool.
and,
I enjoy it. It's
uh,
fun.
so there's
Surprise.
so, and then like on that topic too, what advice do you give to like a writer? out
Oh,
there
I
who's
still
trying
don't.
to-
I still don't consider myself a writer.
Yeah.
I'm not a writer. I'm not an author. I'm just a guy who has a story.
Well, I was in a similar boat where I always have these pieces in my mind of different stories, even of 25, 10 different stories. And then I'm like, oh, that would be a cool idea for this story. And this would be a cool idea for this story.
Yeah.
And like, what's your advice to just putting it all together? Like, how to,
or what is your process?
yeah, what is, I mean,
I mean, to me, it's like putting a puzzle together.
mm-hmm.
But you can't necessarily start with just the frame like you would on your table.
Sure.
Like you just have whatever pieces you have. Some of them are flipped over, some of them are flipped upright, and you just make it out the best you can based on.
Backwards.
Yeah, you just gotta make it out the best you can based on what you see, and hope it fits together. And don't be surprised if the two pieces you thought belonged together was actually just a shade off, and it belongs over here instead.
Yeah.
Like it happens, and you can't. Don't just like how I live life. I don't try to force things. Just let it be and learn from it.
And same with like, you mentioned a rough draft. So then it's just like get it down on paper and then go back and just
Yeah,
fix it where you need
and they teach you that in school all the time. I remember hearing the lessons. I remember following along and whatnot. But for last 20 years plus, I couldn't find myself to do that because it wasn't going to be right. It never felt like it was going to be right.
Yeah.
But now that I've done it,
Yeah.
One, I could say I was stupid for not doing it sooner.
Right.
And number two, another way I could put it is, now that I understand it more, I have a rough draft to say.
And so you could call that like writer's block, or you could call that perfectionism. But how did you break through that?
I had learned that I was trying to translate one language into another.
Okay.
I was trying to translate the ideas I had here into actual vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
And the English language sucks because we use a lot of the same words for the same ideas.
Okay.
And I don't want to be all Lewis Carroll and invent new nonsensical words.
Right.
I just rather have a better identification of what this means that we can all support,
Yeah.
and then we can move ahead.
Right.
And that's sort of what I've been trying to do with the stories. Let's all rally around this idea. The every place in my story, it's spelt all caps, italics, and bold. And any punctuation that follows has to go to the following line.
Mm.
And the idea is simple, that this is what the every place is. Just
Right.
like some more traditional beliefs. Let's talk about God. Oh, God has to have a capital G. It's like, okay, fine. The every place is to be written like this.
Right. Right.
Show respect.
It has to be on its own line, you said?
And, well, this is online. Just that any punctuation or anything that
After-
follows
after, yeah.
follows on the next
Oh,
line.
it's cool. Cool looking. I'm sure.
Nevermore, there is no punctuation, even if it's a comma after more. There's a period in between never and more, separating the words but keeping it solid.
Mm-hmm.
Capital N, capital M. The idea being is where finite meets infinite,
Mm-hmm.
never and more.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you present it that way because this is how it's going to be presented. If you see me not doing this, something's wrong.
Right.
and just to rally around ideas.
Yeah. So when it comes
So
to
find your rally points. What about your story matters that you need people to understand, and
right, and then
don't
emphasize it.
don't waver from that.
Yeah.
Hold your principle. Like, we
Yeah.
have to go this way. This is what it has to be.
Yeah, I'd say like my advice is that it takes time. A story, an epic story, or even a small story could take time. And if it's not coming out right away, it's like it needs more time to bake.
Yeah,
And then you come in with your new experience and I've just found writing in the last couple of years so much easier than I did in my 20s just because I have so much more.
yeah. You have more background in what you're trying to do. You become more of an expert in your pursuit.
And
Even if you don't feel like you are, you're more so than you were.
Yeah.
Because you've been trying.
And it's gotten easier. My advice too is like just write little simple stuff, get it out on the paper, and then like it does get easier over time. Like the hardest part is just starting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Part of the way that I actually started this was discovering what Franklin needed to be, which didn't happen till recently. Once I realized that, oh, that's how I'm supposed to tell the story. Okay, and it made it so much easier. In a few months, I've already went through most of what I wanted to say for this one.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm at the final stretch. I finally made it. I'm gonna have something real now. I'm just gonna hold in my hands. It's real.
Yeah, that's important for all of us,
Yeah.
I think, is
I'm not crazy.
turning our ideas into something tangible, and a lot of people have ideas and don't make them.
Yeah, my grandfather used to have this idea about miniaturization. And every time I asked him to clarify, I would ask him specifically, like, you mean like inner space, like one in short? Or do you mean like Ant-Man from the comics? Like, what do you mean miniaturization? He could never explain to me exactly what he wanted.
Miniaturization.
That movie with Matt Damon was the whole miniature community of people.
Oh, yeah.
That movie,
Yeah.
right?
Downsizing.
No, I like that movie. That movie's stupid. I like it.
Yeah.
But my grandfather could never adequately explain to me what he meant when he said miniaturization.
Sure.
He'll tell me all these things like, I'm missing it, man. I'm giving you all these examples that already exist. You're saying it's none of those. I have no idea what the hell you're talking about.
Right.
Man, he's alive. I should ask.
And speaking of movies, if they ever made your book into a movie, let's just say, and they had to actually create characters for these people, do you envision them being different actors for these different personas?
No, I don't impose any real world things on my story in that way. I'm totally cool with it being a movie. Like in my head, it is a movie in a sense, but I don't have any specific faces. I don't even have my faces attached to the people I relate to.
Yeah, but I'm just because visual interpretation obviously is different than telling a story. Right? Or reading a book.
I know who the character is. I don't know anyone off the top of my head who would have what it takes to be that character. Not to say there isn't one out there. I'm just not. Timothy Chalamet, he could be the guy. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just throwing out a name. But maybe he could make it work. He looks a lot like Gene Wilder. I'm still not going to watch that movie, though. But
I watched that movie. It had some flaws, but
man, I just see that. I was scared of that, too.
Did you see Wonka, Solomon?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, I don't want to ruin it for you.
Yeah, no spoilers.
But he does a very good Gene Wilder. Absolutely. I could see that being a thing.
Okay.
So with that, let's try to give one more message to the people. If they're dealing with identity or their inner world, what would you tell them?
Talk about it. It's not just to be a professional. It doesn't have to be a loved. It could be a stranger at a bar.
Yep.
Just talk about it, because the more you talk about it, the more real it becomes.
And get it out on paper. That's probably.
If that's how you want to express it, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever medium you want, you just find a way to express it. Otherwise, it will totally eat you alive. Or you have to figure out a way to ignore it completely and hope it doesn't come and bite you in the ass later. All right?
That's something I'm happy to say about now that I'm got my own show and I can come here and get all my ideas out. Now they're not all in my head jumbled around. Like, let's get them out let's get it here and talk about it.
Yeah. Well, when I'm writing this story, again, it's an epic. It goes places. I still have all these other things jumping in my head. I keep having to shoo away.
More stories?
It's the same story. It's all the same. It's just that it's not where it's supposed to be. I don't need you guys right now. I'll come back to you guys later.
Yeah.
I need to focus on this. I need to focus on this. And just the idea that once I get it done, I don't have to think about that narrative. I know it's there. I don't need to look at it
Yeah.
anymore because it's already there.
Right.
Oh, it'd be such a relief.
So you don't drive yourself crazy like me and like leave notes for yourself for later down the road. Like, oh, I'm gonna come to this part in the story someday. Like, have like
I just store it in my head. It's
you have
there.
like filing cabinets full of notes.
I used to do. I feel like the notes I took over the years. It was Franklin trying to get something out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though I didn't feel like I wanted to get it out, part of me did. And so mostly it's dialogue between characters.
Right.
Which now that I'm in the process of writing that, I didn't even use any of that dialogue.
Right.
But it inspired the scene to help fill in the shape
Yeah.
of it all.
Yeah, that's one thing about writing stuff down is like it's all kind of already in our brain already, but we're
Yeah.
worried we're gonna forget it, and
Yeah.
then we put it down on paper, and then we lose the paper. But it's like it's kind of in your brain already.
Yeah. I don't really forget the parts that matter.
There you go. That's
All the-
good advice too.
All the stars are still exactly where they're supposed to be. It doesn't really matter how the line looks until
Mhm.
I'm getting there. You know,
All right. Well, you've been a fascinating guest, Franklin.
I had fun. I was
This was
scared.
fun. We'll have to
Still
have you
scared.
back on again sometime.
It'd be cool.
You're not scared anymore, are you?
I'm a little scared.
It's so scary. This set.
Nothing bad's gonna happen.
Well, I
now.
wasn't looking at myself. Now I'm looking at myself. Oh, that sucks.
You're in the middle. You're in the middle of Dealing With Week. You're in the middle of Brandon K every day in March. We're having a great time. I'm hoping I'm getting views. And like and subscribe if you like what we're doing here. My Instagram is Brandon K Show. TikTok, Brandon K Show. We are sponsored by Gift Apply, charity wrapping paper. I'll put that down in the link below. We're going to have, other episodes will have full, there you go. Sponsored by Gift Apply. Use the coupon code 25%, BK Show to get 25% off. And
At giftapply.com.
at giftapply.com. And that's everything. Thank you for watching.